halakah, haven't they? They've come up with a verbal law, a tradition that they have invented that has no foundation in truth. That's what a halakah is. And we're talking about halakah. It's going to take me a long time to go through this halakah series because we're going to tie it with the false doctrines of America and the churches. So they all spoke with heteroglossa, other foreign languages, as the Spirit gave them utterance. Most of the Pentecostals I ever was around, they thought utterance meant guttural sounds. Just start in your throat. Kind of like you're gargling. Rubber baby buggy bumper. I can't say that fast. I always like to throw those tongue twisters in. You know. Yeah. Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. Yeah. All right. As the Spirit gave them utterance, apo, phtEggomai. That's the word utterance. What's so amazing, when you get on down to verse 14 of Acts 2, Peter lifted up his voice and said. Said is the same word as utterance. It's the word apophathangomai. Peter did not say shikamamola. He didn't say that. He said, ye men of Judea. Well, utterance means to speak clearly, so you'll be easily understood without anybody interpreting anything. And when there were cloven tongues of fire from heaven, the Pentecostals have taken all of this and put a halakah on it. And it was all because Israel was carried away captive. That's what it's about. Now, they put their spin on all this. So as the Spirit gave the ability to speak clearly, so they spoke in other foreign languages, as the Spirit gave them the ability to say and speak these things clearly where these men would understand their own dialect. And they spoke with cloven tongues as of fire. All this has to do with Israel being scattered over here. And it all has to do with halakah. I want you to notice that Christmas, halakah, and tongues are all part of the same picture. I won't go into the 70 weeks of Daniel, which is a part of this picture, isn't it? All prophecies are part of this picture. The all men, the spirits in prison is a part of this picture, isn't it? Because God rejects Israel in Acts 2. He's going to pour out of His Spirit on all flesh, Acts 2, and that's where the glossa is. How's He going to pour out of His Spirit on all flesh when there's only Jews in Jerusalem listening and hearing in their dialect where they were born? How's this going to be pouring out of His Spirit? And the Holy Spirit is truth, and Thy Word is truth. How's this going to be God pouring out His Word on all flesh? Huh? Well, they're all going back to the lands where they were from, and they're going to preach to the Gentiles because God says, now all flesh, red, yellow, white, black, and brown flesh, when in the Old Testament, only the Jews received the message, and God would forbid the Gentiles from having it, wouldn't He? Except a certain few that He would show grace upon, like Uriah the Hittite, or like Ruth the Moabite, or many others, a few others there. But on a national scale, God never did pour out of His Spirit on the Gentiles. God would tell Saul, go to Amalek and kill every one of those Gentiles there. Don't give an invitation to him, and don't ask them to accept Christ. Kill them. People say, well, God wouldn't do that. Well, He did that exactly. Are you kidding? Read the 15th chapter of 1 Samuel. That's exactly what He did. He did that continually. So He's killing them over here. And then because the Jews going after Baal in the grove, He says, I'm going to give My Spirit to all flesh in Acts 2. To the Gentiles, and that's the spirits in prison. Prison, philake, means the division of light and darkness. And we've been predestined, prohorizo, pre-lightened. We've been called out of darkness to light. And forgiveness means to pardon and release from prison. We were in darkness, but now are we light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. Now, this same system as the Spirit gave them utterance. Well, so cloven tongues. Let me give you cloven tongues, and then now what they've done with the word cloven, utterance, what the Pentecostals, I'm going to get to the Baptists later, but what the Pentecostals have done, they have taken these words, they've taken tongues, which is glossa, and dialectos. They've taken these words, and they've taken utterance, which is that word apophathangum. I won't write it down again. And they've taken cloven, and taken fire, cloven tongues as of fire, and they've taken these and put their spin on it and made it halakah, haven't they? That's why whenever I'm preaching on this halakah, I've got to go back to Israel. I've got to go back to all the false doctrine that's going on in all the churches of America, and I believe we're immersed in the apostasy right now. The Baptist Church does not preach what the Baptist Church taught in 1850. I'm teaching Baptist doctrine from 1850. You guys ought to be ashamed of yourselves. I'm pointing at the camera. I'm preaching predestination. Christmas is pagan and Easter is pagan. That's what the Baptists believed in 1850. That's what the Presbyterians believed back then. That's what the Congregationalists believed. That's what the Puritans believed. I'm not the one out of order. I'm not the one out of step. You are. Now, they've taken this word cloven, and here's what they did with the word cloven. They made it a little bitty fiery tongue. That's what they've done, haven't they? They make it, or it probably more like this, or something like that. You see that on cars, you see it in Pentecostal Bibles, and they think that, and they paint it red, and they call that a tongue of fire. It's not a tongue of fire. That's not a cloven tongue of fire at all. Cloven is the word diamarizo. Let me write this down. Let me go ahead and erase some of this up here. Cloven is the word diamarizo. D-I-A-M-E-R-I-Z-O. Diamarizo, this word marizo comes from the word meros. Meros means a portion, to partake of or to eat of. Eat of. And dia means a channel or a method of partaking of. Method. It means a method of partaking. Now, cloven, this word actually, diamarizo, means a petitioning. A partitioning of tongues. It means to petition off the glossa and the dialectos, the dialects. Those dialects would differ as much as Spanish and Italian. When Jesus tells the apostles, go into all the world and teach all nations, the 11 apostles that were left after Judas killed himself, they were all from northern Galilee. Saying you're from northern Galilee is saying, I'm from Mississippi and I'm a farmer. I don't care what you think. I love God. That's what it's like. It's like being a redneck from Georgia with no sense. I don't mean everybody's in Georgia's redneck, but I mean they got something down there that they're crazy. Drive pickup trucks and drink Budweiser and go to the wrestling match on Saturday night, and they think God's from down there or something, you know. God drives a pickup, you know. But diamarizo means a petitioning off of tongues. That's the word cloven tongues. So what it meant to petition off the tongues. Petition off. It doesn't mean this little thing here. It don't mean that, painted red. It means to cloven means to, if you cleave something, what do? You divide it. It means divided tongues off, partitioned off. And